Anyway, Joe, I want to hear from you, man. Like, what do you agree with our points, or do you have like an entry that we don't even consider unworthy?
You're saying whether I should play George Lucas as to whether something should be considered canon or not. That's out of place.
Is it a
I
step?
can't. I
Is it a
can't.
step too far, man?
It's a step too far. If I was a Jedi, which I'm not, but if I was, it would be against the Jedi code.
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life. Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
Like, she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
Avid fans of my favorite franchise of all time, Alex Battaglia and Joe Furfari. What's going on, guys? How are you?
Very good. Excited to be here.
Hi, everybody. Yes, we are excited to be here. We are ready to talk about Kenobi, or should I say, General Kenobi.
Well, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, all with Star Wars. These guys don't know what I'm going to be asking them, so we're just going to, shoot the shit, get to know each other through this franchise and what we kind of prefer and not prefer. Joe here is pulling the whole Phantom Menace from episode 1, not showing his face, keeping it hidden with the whole General Grievous avatar. So we appreciate you, Joe, for showing up in spirit with your voice. And we'll get right into it to talk about the greatest franchise of all time, Star Wars. Do we agree on that, or is someone going to object?
No, absolutely. Best franchise
perfect.
Of all time, best character of all time, General Menace for the win. I keep my face in discretion, in secret, the man behind the mask, just like General Grievous would. So I'm in character at the moment, despite loss of webcam. We are good to go. No one should know my identity.
Perfect. We appreciate you, Joe, and Alex for coming on. Star Wars, guys. Since its conception by George Lucas in 1977 with the release of the original film, the space opera has captured the imaginations of millions of people with its inventive yet timeless storytelling mythology. Now, Star Wars has become a cultural phenomenon spanning multiple decades and across multiple mediums, including television shows, novels, comic books, and video games. So I want to know from you, I'll ask Alex first, how were you first introduced to Star Wars, man?
Honestly, man, I don't even remember the first one I watched.
Really?
Nice. I can't remember when I first watched it. I just remember like every day, me and my brother watching like the originals, Attack of the Clones, like every single day watching it. And I think like Battlefront 2 or the first Battlefront, and then the second one were really big things that got me like super into it. But I honestly can't remember what the first thing was that like.
So it was multiple entries like from different kind of mediums. Yeah, there wasn't like one event that kind of pulled you in.
I went to my cousin's house, watched the fourth. Went to my other cousin's house, watched the fifth one. Went home, watched like the Phantom Menace or something. Like just kept watching them every day. Like me and my brother just like in love with everything Star Wars.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience too, like breaking it up, watching it here and there. But I do have a definitive moment, and that was episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, because that was the first time I actually sat down and watched it with no distractions and on, how it's truly supposed to be experienced on a big screen. And that one to this day is still my favorite, pulls me in, brings me back. That's why the Kenobi series, I'm, highly excited about it, like a fangirl, because it's like a direct sequel, essentially. And going back to what you were saying is I have, as neighbors who live on the same street, I have a fond memories of us watching that Clone Wars I was discussing with you before the podcast, and not the Clone Wars, the animated version that has like 6 seasons. Talking about the one made by, have his name here, Genndy Tartakovsky, an amazing series that was short-lived, but wow, just talk about top tier storytelling. But thank you for sharing that. Joe, I want to know from you, what introduced you to Star Wars?
Well, it might not be a story that the Jedi would tell you. If you've ever heard of the story of the General Menace, the Jedi Slayer, it's quite an interesting tale, and it's one that I have personal direct experience with. But I should say that it starts off the story anyway in a galaxy far, far away, far, far away from the Milky Way, as we would say. I was but a youngling I didn't have any mechanical cybernetic implants as my screensaver would currently show at the moment.
Right.
I was but a youngling, debatable as to whether I'm force sensitive or not. And the Phantom Menace, I was the prequel era. I was born in the 90s, so I grew up the early 2000s as well for both Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones. As my avatar would show, I have a very, very large interest in the Attack of the Clones in particular, not only just for the movie itself, but also for the animated show and then all the rest of the extended lore, the extended universe. One of the things, actually, now that I'm older too, is not just the action scenes that I would like when I was but a youngling and but a Padawan learner. Maybe Jedi Knight, but not Jedi Master.
Okay.
I would say, aside from just the action scenes and the cool idea of, lightsabers being pretty much the equivalent of space swords, and Jedi being the equivalent of Buddhist wizards for the most part.
Yeah.
It would actually be, now that I'm older, an understanding of how the machinations of an actual republican system turns to an imperial system, and the ways in which that was done. A lot of people think that was maybe more of the more boring talking aspects of the show that was criticized, but now that I'm older, I'm actually interested in these things. And I actually give George Lucas credit for actually trying to explain in a circumstantial way, both behind the scenes with the machinations of politicians such as Senator Sheev Palpatine, in addition to actual events that play out, such as the Clone Wars, for example, and then how the end result ended up being the Jedi being the traitors that they are, trying to assassinate the Republican senator, the Supreme Chancellor, and as to why this master plan had come to be in a legal way to justify it. It's actually very interesting.
Yeah, no,
this plot.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I'm actually happy that you brought that up, because as you get older, you kind of appreciate being an adult. You're more mature to kind of understand the storytelling behind the creator and like what he's envisioning for the bigger picture. And you start to see, like, especially with the Phantom Menace, like at face value, it might come across boring, but what you don't realize is that they're stepping stones. Like he's mapping out, trying to show you like all the events that'll kind of lead after consequentially in, the rise of the Empire, and just kind of like all the moving parts, the logistics that would kind of go together. And, he does it in a methodical way. Like he could have just, gone right into the action and just done like a hero story, or an anti-hero story in that case. But he kind of wanted to dive into like both, the Sith, the Emperor, and Anakin Skywalker, and him falling to the dark side. So I really, admire that notion, and that you appreciate that piece of that approach to the storytelling. Because I know a lot of people, especially with these prequels, they get shit on a lot. But whatever, it just so happens to be the nature of art being subjective. But as long as we can agree that we enjoy them for what they are. Speaking of now film entries into the franchise, what entry in the franchise do you consider to be your most favorite, or maybe one that's impacted you the most? Alex, I'll start with you.
I think Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
I just
nice.
tied everything, like from the originals to the prequels. They just tied everything, and just, I don't know. I loved Hayden Christensen as Anakin. I love the one as for Ewan. Like, I just think like all the characters in it, like Grievous, like the whole duel in Mustafar at the end. Like, I think it was a very action-packed movie, but also like it tied everything together, like the whole transformation to Vader, everything.
Yeah,
I think it was just the perfect movie. I think even the people who originally didn't like the prequels back in the day, I think they've all turned to see how, like, a lot of people I know, like, say The Empire Strikes Back was the best one, but I think like a lot of people turned and said like, all right, the third was actually a very well done movie.
Yeah, no, it's a completely different movie. It's a tragic tale, really. And I appreciate it for the fact that George Lucas went full force, showing that dark side. I think that's what pulls me into it more and more every time I watch it. And Anakin Skywalker, like Hayden Christensen's performance, yeah, a lot of people pick it apart. A lot of people argue it's not the greatest, the most intimidating portrayal. But for me, it hits hard. It has all of the nuances, the vulnerability, the emotional core that you want. And for God's sakes, like, the guy has the look, what I mean? Like, that's how I would imagine Anakin Skywalker being, with the messy hair and, just like the evil eyes, and, just a guy that's pulled apart, from both ways. One of my favorite lines in the series, and from him especially, and when he says to his wife, I want more, but I know I shouldn't. And the way it's delivered, it's like, like what's so wrong about being ambitious? But obviously in his eyes, he knows like there's something wrong, because as a Jedi, you're told not to stay in kind of like your lane, right? Which can be applied, if you really want to kind of dive into the whole philosophy of Star Wars, can be applied to many areas of an individual's life. Like for me, I take that into like when I wanted to pursue my dream as a filmmaker, and I would talk that way to my family. Like I want more, you know what I mean? Like I don't want this 9 to 5 corporate life. I don't know how to explain it to you guys. And that's all I'm accustomed to, right? So very, very, yeah, well spoken, very well said. I agree with you as well, man. Revenge of the Sith, for sure. That is the one for me. Joe, I want to hear from you, man. What's the one that is closest to your heart?
Well, let's just say that in honor of General Grievous, the commander of the Confederation of Independent Systems, and keeping it real with General Grievous,
100%.
I would say the Clone Wars in general. That spans from the second show, part 2 of the episode, so Attack of the Clones to Revenge of the Sith. Between the two, it would be Revenge of the Sith out of all the 6. Both original trilogy and prequel trilogy. Revenge of the Sith takes it for me. It does the honorable battle with General Grievous and Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is found within, which is definitely something that we have to give the prequel memers mass respect to, for elevating these movies to the reputation that they rightfully deserve.
They immortalized
honor.
Yeah.
I give honor to my fellow droids, to my fellow Roger, to the actual attack droids that are much better.
The guy, the guy that says beheaded.
The only thing I can say to that is, in respects to the sequels, what was it? Or no, it was not even the sequels, because they're just a different bunch altogether. But there was that spin-off, that Han Solo spin-off, when that travesty of the robot said, but what about droid rights?
Oh yeah,
can we get some droid rights for General Grievous and the droid army of the Trade Federation? They're just mass conscripted just to fucking die, because they're just absolute not to the best. They're not spec to the best of the top tier of fighting. They have no choice but to fight. But can we say the same about the clones too? The Republic indoctrinates their clones, 200,000, 1 million more on the way, and what, they're just supposed to die? Do they choose to get conscripted and to fight for the Republic? What happens when it turns into the Empire? Do they just have to say, yes, sir, we're the Empire now, the clones are now pro-Empire? So Attack of the Clones. I don't want to interrupt you. You wanted to join in on my rant, which I agree with. Did you want to add something before I continue?
No, Joe. I just wanted to say you're equal in our eyes, if that was the concern about you being General Grievous and not sharing the same equalities. But yeah, for sure. Continue your entry. So you're saying the Clone Wars? Or is that episode 3, or is it both?
Well, the Attack of the Clones is the second episode, but the Clone Wars continues into the Revenge of the Sith, right? The ending of the Clone Wars ends. General Grievous has his end on Utapau. The Trade Federation ultimately get assassinated by the newly emerged Darth Vader on Mustafar in and of itself. The CIS comes to an end. Count Dooku dies in the third movie. He's revealed in the second one. So I would say it's the climactic importance of both the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy as it relates to the shifting between Republic to Empire, but also the hold of the galaxy from the Jedi to the Sith, right? The prequels are very important in that respect, and that's why I like to focus on the Clone Wars. That's why they're my favorite in and of itself.
Great. No, that's great, man. Like I haven't heard that, to be honest. Like people bring up the Clone Wars as often. That's usually just one of the episodes in the saga, but that's a very important point that you made. How it connects everything, ties it in, and it's an important chapter, right? That I'm actually, I haven't completed the series. I'm still a Padawan, so I'm almost there. I got a season down, but I intend to complete it, and I will definitely let you know, Joe, how I feel about it, or should I say, General Grievous. But getting back into the franchise, we've already established our reverence for it. Provided us a lot of memories, as it did for millions of people around the world. But there have been entries in the series that many deem to be unworthy. What entry in the series do you most dislike and wish to be removed from canon if you had the choice? Alex, I'll get back to you.
All the new ones, everything afterwards.
Every single one, eh?
7, 8, 9. I watched them once in theaters. I'll never watch them again. They don't count. I'm trying to forget about them. I don't want to remember them.
100%.
Off the new Lego game, I didn't even play those last 3 ones. I'm not touching those.
Yeah. Okay. So you just you just convinced me not to get it because I was on the fence. I'm like, should I get a new game for the Switch? What should I get? And it's like I don't know if I can get into the Star Wars game after what happened. You know, the travesty.
But I'm not touching those later movies. Like, to me, they were just poorly written. The fact that they went in without a plan, changing directors halfway, there wasn't a plan. Like, George Lucas had a plan. He wrote the originals.
Yeah.
Up with the prequels, where like he had a plan. He knew what was going to happen in Episode 3, like how it was going to shift to Vader. He knew what everything was going to happen. Even the whole Clone Wars, when he wrote the 4th movie, and then Obi-Wan mentions the Clone Wars, he already had something in his mind about that. And then they actually ended up making a show about it, which was
That's why they brought him. What is Dave Filoni? Is that his name?
Dave Filoni. Yeah.
They brought him. Yeah, they encouraged his ideas. Like, he was on there as like a creative consultant, executive producer, because like you said, he didn't just mention it just to mention it. He clearly was thinking about how this lore ties into everything. And even 7, 8, and 9, he actually approached when he sold it. Poor guy. Apparently he was a really nice guy. He's like, by the way, like, I have these ideas. Did you want me to like discuss them before we continue? And they're like, yeah, we'll think about it. And they brushed them off. That's literally how the story went. They said, yeah. And they ghosted him, as a millennial would put it. So yeah, man, like, I agree with you. The only one that
did he get ghosted, or did he get force ghosted?
Force ghost. I think force ghost would be more applicable in this situation. But honestly, man, like, for me, I'll just speak quickly. Force Awakens. The only reason, like, I agree with you with the whole trilogy. I'll argue Force Awakens. I think the only thing I'm attached to is that feeling it gave me, because when I watched it in the theater, I was just so excited. My imagination was running wild. So every time I watch it, it actually brings me back to like that hope that, 8 and 9's not out yet, but I know that obviously that's not the case. But episode 8 specifically, the reason why episode 8 for me, man, is because that was like the turning point. That's when everything just crumbled. People might argue like, oh, you're just a Star Wars nerd. Like, you got to look at it from a bigger picture. It's like, no, you idiot. From a filmmaking perspective, storytelling, like, nothing happened. There was no arc. There was no change. There was no moral like story at the end. Everything was building up to Rey going to the dark side, in my opinion, and they should have pulled the trigger and done that move and like really changed the game, because it would have made sense. And it would at least given a compelling story and made you excited for episode 9. But yeah, that's just my point. I talk about it ad nauseum. But yeah, number 8 for sure is probably the only one I have the most hatred for. Number 9, I actually don't even like. I can't even look at or think about, because it's just like a
waste of time.
Abomination. Yeah, like, it's like, how the fuck did it even come out? Like, it came out really because they just told people there was going to be 3 movies. You know what I mean? Because if it was any other series, it'd be like, yeah, we're canceling it too. We're canceling after the 8th one. But yeah, like, I can't even think of 9. I'm like, I can't even believe they made it. So yeah, like, number 8, man, for me is just like a huge disgrace and disappointment to everything we hold dear about Star Wars.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It was like the 7th wasn't a great movie, but like, you could see, like, I didn't like how it was almost like a Death Star 2.0 everything,
Yeah.
but like, there was a vision. They had a plan. It wasn't the best movie, but you could see like, oh, they're moving somewhere,
But I got you. Let's be honest, man. I got you excited. You're like thinking about, and then you start on YouTube, and you're like, "Yo, this could happen. That could happen." I started getting into the whole Jar Jar Binks theory, and I'm like, "Yo, that could have been something. What the hell?" Even though I don't know how plausible it would be, but at the end of the day, man, it's like that's the thing. It just riled you up so much. Where, again, like, 8 had a lot going for it, and like the pressure, like, of course it's gonna fall on itself, but I would have been so happy if they just did something, like took a risk. That whole like subplot about Finn going on a side mission with some girl he clearly is friend zoning, and like, it just made no sense. Like, she kissed him to end the war, which makes no, like, love ends war, like all these stupid tropes. And again, kids, I don't know. I'm gonna get into a whole like sociological kind of topics, but
well, look, guys. I mean, if you want to go to the casino with me to Canto Bite, we can get some Republican credits.
With your
we can get some
llama?
Republican credits.
Yeah.
You know, I have more droids to build, so I'd be up for that.
Anyway, Joe, I want to hear from you, man. Like, what do you agree with our points, or do you have like an entry that we don't even consider unworthy?
You're saying whether I should play George Lucas as to whether something should be considered canon or not? That's out of place.
Is it a step?
I
Is it a
can't.
step too far, man?
It's a step too far. If I was a Jedi, which I'm not, but if I was, it would be against the Jedi code. It's not something I can.
But there must
I
be
can
one. Okay,
diverge
there must
from.
be one entry that you're like screw it. Like I just can't. Do you
Yes.
or do you enjoy all of them?
So this is my official answer.
Yes.
As high top of the hierarchy as general is concerned. The creator, George Lucas, right? He is essentially the main guy as to what he's the main guy as to what one would consider authority to be in the Star Wars universe that he created, right?
Right.
As creator, he decided to make his vision for his franchise, this world that he created, these characters that he envisioned and that he wrote about and that he showed on his film, in his filmography. He did it in movies, right? He did it in episodic trilogies in movie format. So as far as that's concerned, you can talk about how the official canon as it relates to George Lucas will always be centered upon the movies, right? His first one was the original trilogy, the OT, as we know, not the Old Testament, the OT, original trilogy. That's a different stuff. But when the prequels came, the prequel trilogy, this was also led, directed, manifested. It was the vision of the creator of the franchise. It was George Lucas. He wanted to show the world, maybe even for himself, right? How Darth Vader, one of the most iconic, infamous characters, what everyone thinks as the big bad guy, so to speak, aside from shadowy Palpatine, right? The man at the front, the man in charge, the strong arm of the Empire, right? The big bad evil empire that everyone always sees in the original trilogy, and then the righteous, good, rebellious, not rebels. No, yeah, rebels, not what do they call them in the sequel trilogies? Because everyone calls them rebel scum in the OT, but now they have to call themselves something else.
They do? I thought
they're not rebels.
Oh,
they're something else. What did they try to call themselves?
What,
I forget.
The
sequel and the sequel.
The rebellion or something.
The rebellion, yeah, I don't know. It was something.
Oh, the resistance, you mean?
The resistance, yeah. So they're not rebels
figure.
anymore. They're not rebels anymore.
Resistance.
They're the resistance. No, but and then even afterwards in the sequel trilogies, they stopped saying the resistance, and then they tried to play back to the old. And they said,
whatever.
Scum. And I'm like, oh, okay.
But it's like that meme. Can I copy your homework? Yeah, just don't copy everything.
pretty much, yeah. But it was kind of like an attempt to tie it in to go back, but no. But yeah, no. So the prequels, right, which now makes it from 3 movies to 6 movies.
Yeah,
it was still of George Lucas,
right?
So
you could tell it was under one unified vision for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I consider it to be the official canon. It's in movie format, but
oh wow, okay.
Both during and after, Lucasfilm as a corporation, as a company, also allows licensing to people who want to have Star Wars comics or people who want to have Star Wars books. When I was a kid, I not only watched the movies, but I also watched maybe some of the TV shows on YTV or Teletoon, but also, or later on, there was also the Clone Wars TV shows, and now there's Rebels and the like, and now there's Bad Batch, which is cool. But more specifically, I also grew up going to the local bookstore and actually buying Star Wars books, right, by Jude Watson specifically, and I loved it. The Jude Watson books of Star Wars, Jedi Quest, Last of the Jedi, all that stuff. Like this was able to come into being because of these types of authors saying, hi, here's my script and here's how I think it relates to these main characters or these side characters and how we can expand the world. And Lucasfilm says, yes, like we give the nice big check mark as to what your plan is. It's in accordance with the universe's laws. It's in accordance with the lore. That all plays well, and it adds fruition. It builds even more to what we know and love, right? This is all good things. The difficulty that arises, in my opinion, when a creator and then therefore the creator's company decides to sell the franchise name to a different company and then to a different, let's say, board of directors or other people of authority aside from the creator and his board, is that there becomes a dichotomy if not everything that the new company or the new board of directors or the new leads of Lucasfilm, so to speak, diverge to the point where everything prior, especially maybe the advice of George Lucas, is not respected to the degree that not only the creator wouldn't have wouldn't have wanted, but also maybe even the actors themselves or those who are part of Lucas before also may not disagree. And then it divides the fan base as well. You can even see that in the Halo franchise now with the new Halo TV show, right, between fans and the new Paramount episodes. So when there's such a divergence that it causes division within the community, then people are going to say, oh, we have to start picking and choosing what's quote actually Star Wars now and what's quote actually not Star Wars, because it's not George Lucas anymore. Everything that he had given to them as like a nice beneficial, oh hey, like, you know, I trust you, Disney, I trust you with my company, I trust you with this franchise that I built, with this lore. This is something that I've written for you, something that I had thought in mind, whether it talks to the deeper nature of the Force or the midichlorians or whatever. And here's how the characters I foresee continuing after the original trilogy chronologically, and they don't use his material. So when there's big division and they don't try to honor or pay homage, at least if not in whole, but tidbits of what the creator has envisioned for these next kind of films, you give allowance or credence for people to be upset about what direction Star Wars will go, and then they're like, oh, we can maybe just consider in our own minds. It's like a fan canon almost.
Yeah.
Of what is considered Star Wars and what is not. Oh, maybe because George Lucas is not there, or maybe because they didn't respect his material, right, to put into the new films, or maybe just anything Disney is no longer known. So it's not really my place to say, because technically, officially, all of it would be canon as it relates to the movies. But and then you talk about extended universe before Disney and after Disney, and now they made also the divide between the original EU and now what they call legends, right? What they call the legend canon now.
Yeah. Well, even the books.
So it's a difficult question. It's a difficult question. Ultimately, it's whether you decide with the creator or with the owner, quote, of the franchise and what they consider to be canon.
Yeah, my question. Well, thank you for that analysis for sure, because and that insight, because that's definitely something that whether you like it or not, as a Star Wars fan, you need to come to terms with. You know, the creator is not going to live forever, and well, he is. I don't think he's as involved as a lot of people think they are.
Well, he'll be one with the Force eventually. So
he will be one with the Force, exactly. But the point being is, you made a very interesting point, is that, and to be clear, Joe, you know, doesn't have any hard, you know, preference, you know, or hard decision on like what he dislikes or what he doesn't. It's just a matter of kind of acknowledging the fact that there's going to be always subjective kind of opinions about where the franchise is headed or where it's going, as proven with how Disney handled the sequel trilogy. And as proven with The Mandalorian, right? George Lucas wasn't heavily involved, if not at all, from my understanding. And
yeah, like I can't just say that, for example, like I just can't say, for example, like, yeah, the sequels are non-canon, but Mando is definitely canon. Because
exactly. Like you can't.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of tough. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, man, like again, that was for the, think of it as like the fun of that question, right? But at the end of the day, being realistic, I kind of take Star Wars, like every time they release something, I just treat it as canon if they say it's canon, and I just try with my imagination to see how it would work in. I always imagine, you know, maybe they continue the story from episode 9, and maybe they can, like, you know, like what they did with the prequels, and like, you know, patch it up if they need to, or like, you know, fix some certain areas. But that's how I kind of see it, instead of, you know, trying to figure it out, like being baffled, like, you know, how could they make these mistakes and these moves. It's like, at the end of the day, obviously, if it's canon, it's canon. You just have to kind of accept it, as hard as it is a pill to swallow. But you have to kind of see from your imagination how you can kind of fit it into the ultimate story, right? The lore. So that was really cool what you said, Joe, and thank you for providing that insight. A lot of people don't see it that way, that it's the inevitable truth. Lucasfilm does provide licensing to a lot of people, right? Star Wars Theory too. He makes his own films as well with their approval. And eventually you're going to have that dichotomy, right? You're going to have that division where you're going to have people that are for this and not for that, and vice versa. So the franchise is only getting bigger and bigger. It's become more than its creator, right? It's transcended its creator. So we have to accept that Star Wars is now part of the people. It belongs to the people. And with that, there's going to be different opinions. So now that I've discussed that, now we've discussed what we like, what we don't like. I want to know from you guys, what do you feel, what entry in the franchise do you feel is probably underrated or overlooked and needs to get more attention, more love? Alex, I'll start with you.
I think it's like probably like one of the shows. Clone Wars, I feel like was very underrated for a long time.
Yeah.
Like I remember like watching it every like weekly all the time, and like a lot of my friends who like Star Wars, they just weren't into it at all. Like because it was a cartoon, you know, it wasn't the TV show.
Right.
But then as the years went on, like more people got into it. Then it came onto Netflix for a while, I believe, and then Disney Plus, and now like everyone's seen it. Like a lot of people respect it. They see like these clones have characters, you know, it's a huge
Exactly.
a lot of characters that were like part of the extended universe at one point, but now they're like very important characters within the show. And I feel like the same will happen with Rebels eventually, which isn't like it's still not as followed as much. But I feel like once the Ahsoka show comes out and they're gonna bring people like characters within Rebels like Sabine and Ezra, then more people are gonna fall in love with Rebels like I did. Because
I haven't even watched, and I haven't even watched Rebels, so I'm excited for that based on that.
Watched it weekly. First season was a bit slow. Like it's a huge introduction to all these characters, but then
Right.
second season and onwards compete with the Clone Wars seasons. Like they're very
Really? Wow.
very like action packed, and like what a lot of people say is like the Rebels show makes like Darth Maul like a fan favorite. Like
Wow.
I never loved Darth Maul that much. Like he was a cool character, awesome villain.
He was just there, to be honest with you. Yeah.
And he came into the Clone Wars and he made people like him even more. But then in Rebels, it makes you like, wow, he might be like my top 3 favorite now. Like he's
Yeah.
just a massive
A memorable, like foreboding, like villain. Like he's yeah.
I
Makes
feel like
sense.
animated shows are the ones that like don't get respect a lot at the beginning because a lot of people just aren't into animation shows, you know? Like there's people who are into like anime or those cartoon type shows. And then some people are like, no, how do you watch a cartoon? I want to see like live action, you know? And I
Yeah.
feel like more people get into it. So the Clone Wars was the same. I feel like the Rebels will continue on that path, and then we'll eventually get more recognition once the Ahsoka show comes out.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. I definitely even for me, right? Like I'll admit, I never really drew attention to the Clone Wars. I saw it as like I'll be honest, like a childish animated show at first, like just at first glance, because I prefer the one that I first mentioned to you, the Samurai Jack kind of style, the Jendi Tartakovsky, Kofsky, can't pronounce his name, but that show for me was really the Clone Wars, right? But I bought the box set as a true fan of Star Wars, as someone who's a collector, a completist, and I started watching them. I have a Blu-ray set, and I'm just like, wow, like this is really a intriguing, compelling show. It really takes a while to like kind of get into it because it really just starts in, it just thrusts you into it. But as Joe was explaining, it connects episode 2 and 3, right? So it's not only servicing, you know, people that are fans of the show, but also people that want to know more about the story, right? Like how to make it a cohesive experience. So that's really true. For me, I'll just speak quickly. Solo, a Star Wars story. I know Joe was speaking about, you know, the atrocity with the whole, like, aren't droids equal, all that political banter.
Droid rights. If
Droid
that's what
rights,
I need
sorry,
in my
that's right, General
prequels, I
Memes.
need
I'm
my
talking-
I need my droid rights. That's the one thing from Lando Calrissian's robot. Now a part of the great Millennium Falcon for better or worse. Droid rights for my
Droid
Roger
rights.
Roger. Absolutely.
Okay. We'll be campaigning for that for sure. No, but on that note, you know, Solo Star Wars story, I really do believe gets a bad rap. When I rewatch it, I kind of look at it as like its own movie. I don't really connect it to Star Wars in a funny way. The poor kid, Alden Ehrenreich, or I don't know his name, the actor who played him, you know, he does a really good job. And I think the problem is that he's in the shadow of Harrison Ford because he's playing the younger version. So it's hard for the brain to say, oh, but he's going to grow up to be Harrison Ford. Like you can see it, but you can't. So what I'm trying to get at is if it was its own movie, like just take it, again, I'm speaking as a filmmaker, but take it as its own movie. I really do believe it's a compelling story. You know, it's really intriguing, and it's quite fascinating to see, like, you know, a guy that's you know, kind of down on his luck, you know, gets everything stripped away from him, and he's not like a, you know, a likely hero. He's not like a Luke Skywalker polished, you know, one with the Force, you know, saves the galaxy. He's just a guy that's trying to make his way, and he does it. You know, doesn't do it the most sophisticatedly, right? But and at the end of the day, he gets what he wants, and he kind of, like, I don't know, I just see a very flawed character, right? I just see someone that's doesn't get the girl at the end, doesn't get you know, what he desired at the end, and that's the essence of the character. I think what they got the most. So definitely something, if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're someone that has watched it, I would consider rewatching it, and maybe you might have a change of opinion. So I want to know from you now, Joe, is there one that you feel is underrated or overlooked?
Well, number one, maybe it was for the best that our fan favorite Han Solo stays solo. Mr. Solo stays solo. He is
Gotcha.
no longer with baby girl Kira, the baddie, because now it gives all fans a potential hope that we can all have our future Star Wars
Exactly.
baddie.
There you go.
If not Kira herself, maybe someone else.
Exactly.
You know, may the Force guide us for that special person later on in life to connect with.
Joe, General Mimas has a crush on one of the Star Wars characters.
Bro, well, it's definitely not going to be Padme because everyone always everyone always bandwagons Padme.
And Princess Leia is more of a dad, like if you're a
Pat,
dad.
yeah. Padme and Leia. The number one, Padme is wifed up.
Yeah,
She's
that's true.
Anakin's. She's Hayden Christensen's.
Yeah.
Everybody else, you're out of luck. Leia too. Leia got with Han. So I don't know what everyone's trying to do over here. You have to try to find the diamond in the rough. Those girls in the movies that are still up for grabs, so to speak.
To be clear, Joe's after
space
the
smuggler.
episode 8 Leia.
Episode, yeah, maybe. Who knows? Who knows
General
what's going
Leia.
on? Who knows what's going on in this
Nah.
droid mind?
But Joe, is there one that's overlooked? Is there one that's underrated in your opinion, or no? Are they all like treated with the same love?
So, are you talking about just the movies themselves, or are you going to talk about
anything,
TV
man? If you feel there's something other than the movies, if you feel there's a book, I'm just curious your opinion, man.
Well, if there is thing else, I'll talk about movies first, just very brief.
Sure.
If there's anything underrated that I feel is sorely undeserved, it would actually be Hayden Christensen in and of himself.
Oh wow. Okay, great.
Not only do I feel Anakin to be my favorite character, not just because he's the main crux of the entire show in general. He's the chosen one, all that of the like.
Right.
But I actually not only liked his character as the way the design was made, how he has his long hair, how he among all the Jedi distinctly wears black and not like the typical like light brown or dark brown or those types of colors. He stands out. He has long hair. You can see that he broods. You can tell that he has a lot of frustration or tension. Like he's conflicted. He's an interestingly conflicted character because of his upbringing, because of how he's supposed to be when he's at a particular order. But also he has real life situations. He has an emotional attachment to his wife. He has to make interesting decisions, whether to follow, in accordance with a code. He doesn't. He chooses to marry in secret and to have a family. Not only that, but his own order, for example, because of their antithetical, dogmatic, straight line, no divergence allowed for any type of communication or dialogue with the Sith. Once one Sith is found, need to be executed no matter what. But now he's the Supreme Chancellor of the entire Republic. So what does his order do? Big bad Mace Windu. I know everybody loves Mace Windu. Star Wars Theory, my fellow YouTuber who also has an avatar for a long time before the face reveal. He made his own little short. I forget what it was called, but rumor has it that maybe Mace Windu will make an appearance in his second one. I actually blame Mace Windu and his ragtag group of merry men for the downfall of the Jedi. Absolutely 100%, not solely Anakin, or not, in large part Anakin. Mace Windu decides that these are the things, the legal aspects I like to think about. Mace Windu, they're a part of the Jedi Order, not an official appointed senator or politician in any capacity of authority politically in a Republican system. They're like kind of like a parallel religious homage of sorts that helps militarily if need be for the Republic and the galaxy in Star Wars. But he just decides, this Force user is not a Jedi. He doesn't have our doctrine or philosophy of how the Force should be used. He just goes in, walks to the leader of the fucking world, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking execute you. He's too dangerous to be left alive, apparently. He's a Sith. He has a different philosophy of the Force than me. That's not allowed in my order. But there's no rules in the Republic as to whether
it mirrors
Jedi,
religious prejudice, Jedi. Right? And all those, like, if you think about it in a way.
Sure. Sith advocacy over here. Like devil's advocate, give the Sith advocate over here. You can't think of a different opinion as to how he'd like to use the Force. So because Anakin says he must stand trial, and the reason why he says this, his underlining reason is Palpatine had said that the only way to save his wife is through the dark side, right? Like, he doesn't want Palpatine to die execution fashion by Mace Windu, because if Palpatine is gone, Anakin might not ever know the secret as to how he can save his wife from childbirth by using the Force, because apparently it was Darth Plagueis the Wise, our friend over here, who's actually able to manipulate the midichlorians to manipulate life in that way to save his wife from dying. So he has to make a choice, right? He doesn't agree with Mace Windu's execution of the ruler of the Republic, but also it's the fact that Mace Windu is going to deprive him of his chance to be with his wife, the person that he loved ever since he saw her. When he asked if she was an angel back on Tatooine, right? Which is very romantic of him. So yeah, no, I blame Mace Windu heavily for his improper decisions and un-Jedi-like behavior, but also on let's say his inability to be a good politician, let's say. And he brought down the downfall of not only the Jedi Order itself, but Anakin solely. Anakin as well, because this was something that he wasn't going to accept. And that I think that's a very undervalued aspect to the whole scenario itself, and just Anakin, and just Hayden Christensen's acting. For whatever reason, people criticized him a lot for his role, but I actually never thought of that growing up. When I was a teenager and I was a young adult, I never heard of the wider community criticizing Anakin for his acting or whatever. Like, I actually thought he did a very good job, and like it encapsulated me so much. It encapsulated me so much that Star Wars is still my favorite franchise today, mostly because of Anakin. And then maybe in second you can have Obi-Wan's jokes, but yeah, the prequel memes, man, it's what keeps the show alive. You know, even Christian Hayden said not too long ago when he was doing interviews before the Kenobi movie, the TV series, which we can transition to soon. One of the first things Hayden Christensen said, I think it was with who was it? It was some company in Hollywood, and they said, Hayden, introduce yourself, introduce your character. And he said, well, I'm Hayden Christensen. I play as Anakin Skywalker, Jedi Knight, not Master, never Master. You know, so he knows the prequel memes, and they know that the prequel memes keep it fucking going. All these OT guys can say what they want, but you don't have the memes, man. You don't have the fucking life that continues the franchise into the ages. So
exactly,
so that's what I'll say. The underrated.
Like they're showing the adoration they have for the character. Like that's how he sees it, right? That they're like immortalizing him.
I'll say the underrated aspect in conclusion would be Anakin's choices he has to make. It's unreasonable for him to make. The positions that he had to be put into is very underrated, but also Christian Hayden's acting is underrated because he actually does a really good job of portraying a very conflicted person, and you can actually understand why the choices Anakin makes make sense, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I feel. That's what I feel.
Yeah, no, for sure, Joe. That well said. I'm sure a lot of us feel that way because when we say sometimes, especially when we're talking about the older generation, our favorite characters, Anakin, they say, why you like that whiny baby? Like, just not really seeing it the way we saw it. They often say you were 10 years old when you watched it. That's probably what clouds your judgment. And I said, no, I'm like, I just know what I like. Like, as I got older, I kept watching it saying, like, is there something wrong? And I realized, no, I see beyond the performance, really. Even if there are moments where it's like, whatever, like, maybe it's not as believable, the delivery, I still feel the character, like I often say that when I'm in movies, like I'm directing, I'm making a project myself on set, you got to feel the moment, you got to feel the character. Like sometimes you just don't feel it. And when I watch his performance, like I really do feel it. And like you said, there's a lot of complexities going on, through his eyes, a lot of introspection, dualities, like how he's battling, the good and evil, how he's battling the right and wrong, right? Choosing two different lives and two different paths, right? He's told that he has to be a certain way. That's really the story of Anakin, and he decides to be someone different. Now, everything else is a byproduct, right? Like, the fact that he can't save his wife, and that he wants to be a Jedi Master. But the reality is that he has his own ambitions, right? And they're just not in line with the conventional ways of the Jedi, right? So that's really the tragedy in on itself. Is that he wanted maybe too much, wanted to grab too much than what he can handle, and in the end affected and hurt the other people around him, right? That loved him the most. So thank you for that introspection. Thank you for that, Joe, as always, and Alex as well. I really want to.
If you want a girl, don't be a Jedi. So it's all like
Don't be a
that
Jedi.
is
Hey, let's
that is the
go.
lesson of Revenge of the Sith. If you
That was
if you want to ruin the world, make a man single for his entire life.
Love it, bro.
That is the lesson of the Jedi Code. That's all.
Emperor Palpatine, man. I'm waiting for that spin-off show because that'll show you really what goes on, right? The dark side.
Oh fuck me! There's no way I want to know who Palpatine gets with and makes a Rey Palpatine further down the line. Who knows how that happened? That grandfather connection. I don't even want to know.
Oh
that
yeah, don't even get me started.
That can stay in the mystery. That can stay in the mystery.
Don't even get me started, buddy. But as you know, or maybe some of you don't, but it's fast approaching the 50-year milestone in 2027. You're looking at Star Wars celebrating its 50 years, which is astonishing. I want to know from both of you, what stories from the Star Wars lore do you hope to see told in film or television or any other medium down the road? I'll start with you, Alex.
I always liked the clone troopers, like, and everything, but they did out the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
They can do more with it. I don't know, with like the Delta Squad, you know, like the old like PlayStation game, if they can do like more with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They did Rogue One, which was cool, like how they did the whole like getting the plans and everything. There's definitely a lot of books out there that they can go far in. They did a lot. The Clone Wars covered a lot of stuff that like were in the lore, like Darth Maul, the clones, sort of like General Krell, how he's starting to turn, like he could see the Jedi were going to like fall eventually.
But for the most part, they covered the stories that you desire to see. Like
the clones was like the number one thing I always desired to see. Like I always liked the clones.
Right.
It's that we saw Attack of the Clones. They were only the end of it. And then when Revenge of the Sith came out, it was like that's it, you know, like the clones were in and out, that's all. And all we had were those two like original Clone Wars movies, you know, like that showcased the clones for what, like 2 hours, and that's it. And I always wish they did more with that, and I'm happy they did. But what else? I don't know. I'm really excited for the Ahsoka show because I think she'll do a great job in that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. There's definitely some great stories out there. You just pick up any book in the library that has Star Wars on it. Like there's definitely a great story you can do. Like the whole Old Republic would be an amazing like trilogy to do.
you took mine. That's what I was gonna say exactly, man.
That's like the best thing they can do, I think.
I would love to see some sort of like Sith backstory. Maybe even work it in with like Palpatine. You know, just so you can connect the prequel trilogy. But that would, for me, like from what I'm speaking, like I just would really love to see that kind of storytelling, seeing how it would connect to the prequel trilogy, just to show people, because there is an ancient times, if you will, of Star Wars, and you know, you see it in those like cinematic game trailers of the Old Republic. Joe is a fan. Joe's played the games, and that's wild. Like those 4-minute trailers is a movie in itself. It's insane to me that you could pull it off, because we haven't seen that, right? We haven't seen the Sith and the Jedi. I picked up even books, like you said, anything with Star Wars, that they treat it like textbooks. So as if they're like like you're a student, like it's documenting like the history of the galaxy. And at one time, you know, the Sith were a dominant force, more so than the Jedi. Like they outnumber the Jedi. The problem is that they were so greedy and power hungry that they kind of consumed themselves. That's how the rule of two was implemented. So a lot of stories that I think people need to see in that aspect. I'm kind of getting tired of the whole like sequel trilogy and like all those characters. I would really love to see the lore, like the mythology, like how the Jedi, the Sith, like how this division happened. That's what I think even what George Lucas initially wanted to tackle with 7, 8, and 9. I don't know if you read that, like about the Force, like kind of he was actually going to explore like what is the Force, like the Willis, like the Willies. I don't know. I don't know what the term was, but basically there was a reason why he set up the midichlorians. I know a lot of Star Wars fans are kind of against that notion, but are you telling me you don't want to check your midichlorian count, Daniel?
No, you're already halfway there. You have the Jedi man bun. You have the
midichlorian rapid test. Midichlorian rapid test.
Do the midichlorian rapid test. You know, my adversary, whom I disrespect the most, Obi-Wan Kenobi, say his midichlorian count is off the charts.
I don't know if you guys watch Red Letter Media, but they're hilarious. And the guy, Mr. Plinkett, he picks apart the Star Wars prequels, but I kind of just have a laugh for it. Like it's really highly entertaining. And one of the things is when he was pissed off how like Anakin didn't know if he was a Sith or not, Palpatine. And that was his mission. So he's like, check his stool, check his midichlorian count. Get some blood, cut his fucking got his arm for something. And I was
Yeah,
laughing
you
so
know
hard
what? You know
because
what?
it's
That would have
true.
been an
Like if
easy way. Yeah.
like just pluck a piece of his, like those movie missions where they're trying to grab something from their target. Anyway, I just thought that was hilarious because that was like such a grounded, realistic approach. But yeah, honestly, I'm with you for that. Old Republic for sure. Definitely would love to see that story. Joe, what about yourself?
Well, no, I would have said the same thing. So I'll actually
Right.
touch upon that. So you are talking to a long-term subscriber of the Old Republic. I mean, look, I was a founding player, a founding
I
subscriber
believe
since
it.
like 2012, 2013. I've had breaks, just it playing for a bit and then playing not for a bit, as all MMO players do. I play MMOs all
Right.
the time. I think they're great. I also think the Old Republic is the best MMO out there, not because like the subscriber base is now low, but just because of the graphics and the actual storytelling and the fact that they actually have voice acting in every single like main quest that you can do. It's like nothing else has that, and it's actually very interesting as to how it wasn't continually popular or rising in popularity the past 10 or 9 years or so since it's been around. But aside from that, I think it would be awesome for the 50th anniversary for Star Wars if they were to make another trilogy for movie format to actually touch upon the Old Republic. It's so popular that Kathleen Kennedy did a little spin-off book series called The High Republic because she's trying to, or at least those at Lucasfilm are trying to give licensing to book writers to expand upon the new Disney canon that they call it, not Legends anymore, but they build upon the quote Legends, the original extended universe, to grab ideas from, but they don't want to specifically just endorse the Old Republic. They want something new, not just to continue with what was in the old. But nevertheless, look, I always think a really interesting parallel that I like to touch upon would be Anakin and Revan from the Old Republic, right? It was almost, if I'm correct, written as such for him to be a 1,000-year version of Anakin prior to the actual movies. Revan being a Jedi Knight, Jedi who wants to fight in the Mandalorian Wars. After having done so, he realizes that the Mandalore, quote, the leader of the Mandalorians, as you know, in the Mandalorian TV show now, the Mandalorians are unique people specific to the planet of Mandalore, yada, yada, yada. Revan finds out that the Mandalore was convinced to attack the Republic because of something far beyond in the Outer Rim. He finds the old Sith Empire of old out in the Outer Rim, beyond the Outer Rim, beyond the mapped galaxy where Drummond Koss is, and that's where Emperor, the Dark Emperor, as they call him, and then the Dark Sith Council remain, right? And then the Old Republic video game talks about how they re-emerge from Drummond Koss, they retake Korriban, and now they rebattle the Republic for supremacy of the galaxy, right? The old Sith Empire or the Galactic Republic, Sith on one side, Jedi on the other, and yeah, no, it's really interesting stuff. I could even talk about the Old Republic video games themselves that were specific to Xbox and PlayStation, not so much the MMO, where you're introduced to characters such as Revan, but even in the Old Republic game, you're introduced to his master, Kreia, who's actually probably third to both Anakin and Revan for me. The character known as Kreia or Darth Treya, she's probably one of the most well written, most in-depth analysis of the actual force itself and how it's constructed and how it works and how it allows people to choose between which side to try to find a measure of balance and just trying to find answers into the world of how to stop the wars, quote, in Star Wars. It's very interesting. So these are things that I feel would be amazing to touch upon for people to actually know of, because people watch the big screen movies in the tens of millions and hundreds of millions, rather than maybe the core niche Star Wars lovers such as ourselves who would go to the way to play the video games and that of the like, which is more lesser known. But I think that itself would be great to be touched upon. But I don't know if I actually trust the current Disney team with such well-built storytelling is one thing. The only thing I would agree to is if it was the 50th anniversary, Star Wars wants to do a trilogy of the Old Republic, it has to be done by the writers and the producers and the directors who are not from Lucasfilm or Disney, but they're from BioWare. the company that actually makes the Old Republic video games.
Very good point. Yeah,
it has to be the men.
Game director, game developer, anyone that was involved heavily creatively, like the showrunner, as they say, like needs to be on that team. Even if
I would say it has.
Even if he's serving out snacks, like he needs to be there to be like, don't use that idea. It's shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they need to be the ones to do it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like they need to be the ones to do it, because they've been doing the Old Republic for 9 years now.
Because they'll, like I said, like even if it's something as they're just there, but they don't want them to contribute, like they'll hopefully protest or make an issue on Twitter and say, you know, don't watch the series, it's gonna go garbage, you know, because that's their baby, right? Like they spent, like you said, Joe, like many years on that franchise, on that series. And you know, like who's Disney to kind of come around and say like, no, we're gonna approach it the way we want.
So
as
BioWare,
you said, you're a founding
and sorry.
Yeah, go ahead,
so not only BioWare for the MMO, but also Chris Avellone and the guys who actually made the video games, the Old Republic or the Knights of the Old Republic for PlayStation and Xbox back in those days. Chris Avellone, their entire writing team, those guys who actually know the Force, they're the ones that actually made those characters.
Well, I really hope
original guys should be brought back.
Yeah, I really hope Disney approaches them soon, because that is a franchise, that is a series I would love to see come to fruition, especially with this new, with this kind of like explosion of content on this renaissance on the streaming service platform, right? Like there's so much content being put out. There's no reason why we can't see an Old Republic series soon. So I'm really excited for that. And I really, sorry, what were you saying, Joe?
About the Old Republic, it shows how like if it's done by the right people, it's fine, because everyone loves The Mandalorian because it's done by Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni's involved. If you get the right people involved, it'll be a great film.
100%. Yeah.
That's what was wrong with the sequel. They didn't put the right people in charge. They had Kathleen Kennedy pulling all the shots, saying, "Oh, we're doing this, that."
There's also a director for hire thing. So the problem with that is that because with each movie, like you should have a setup, right? And then when you approach the director, that you tell them, like as producers, especially a big franchise like that, this is the direction we're going. With Rian Johnson, for example, like apparently the story goes is they just hired him and said, yeah, like, you know, you can write it and direct it. We're going to give you this much, kill it. And that's the problem, is that you have too many cooks in the kitchen, right? It goes a different way. So when 9 comes out, J.J. Abrams is called back because they're desperate for someone. He has to now repair whatever was broken or whatever doesn't fit or work. Problem is that he has his own vision from 7. So that's why he throws in like the Knights of Ren, and we're just like, oh yeah, forgot about those guys. It's like, what? It's like, who cares? Like, bring me back to like 8 and redo all that, because I don't care about any of this. You know what I mean? But exactly your point, man. It's like, if you're gonna do it right. You know what I mean? Like, not that there's any room for, you know, fresh talent. Like there's people out there that can definitely probably make a better story. Maybe they can enhance the experience, but if you're going to approach a franchise that's a series, I mean, that's beloved like that, like the Old Republic, that, as Joe was explaining, that's been going on for years. That's like, he's a founding player. Because I remember Joe, like way back when I was a teenager, like telling me to play. You can't just dismiss that. You know what I mean? You can't just say, no, we're going to hire a new team. We're going to slap on Old Republic and tell our own story. It's like, no, it's like there's a whole millions of people, a whole fan base that respects and loves that. So you're gonna piss them off. Like, it's best to approach it the right way, right? So really appreciate both of you, your takes on the franchise, you're sharing your love, your passion for Star Wars. You know, this beloved franchise that's going on for almost 50 years. Can't believe it. It's spanned across multiple generations. My dad watched it in his 20s. It's amazing to me. Watched the greatest double feature of all time, I often say, the original Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. You'll never have that experience again, because they're two, you know, milestones in cinema. But yeah, I just love that we share the same affinity, share the same feeling that it has a place in our hearts. And I really appreciate you guys being on the podcast with me to discuss it.
No problem. It's fun.
I'm always excited to have 2 CIS potential sympathizers on my crew. So you know, we need more of my faction. Hopefully my advocacy and my memes will bring that to light.
No, I'm too devoted to the 501st. I'm all for the younglings.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Speaking of the 501st, in the Kenobi series that just came out recently, I think it was in episode 2, you actually saw a veteran, I believe, of maybe the 501st, but I could be wrong. So that would be interesting if maybe they bring the 501st into the Kenobi series. Who knows?
Honestly, the endless possibilities. That's why we love Star Wars. You never thought you wanted to see the story until you see it. Sometimes they get it right with Mandalorian. Sometimes they get it wrong with Book of Boba Fett. But do we at least have something that's enduring and something that's we can share hopefully with our children as well? All right.
Are you saying you don't like a nice soak in the back to tank? Is that what you're trying to tell me? I can't. I'd get electrocuted. My fucking circuits will go ballistic. But it looks nice. It looks nice and relaxing. I mean, why wouldn't you want to have a nice fresh soak in fucking Jabba's bathtub?
I love it, Joe. Keep them coming. Or should I say General Memis? Thank you again, Alex Battaglia. Thank you again, Joe Furfari, for coming on the podcast, sharing your experience, your love for the franchise of Star Wars. And we'll talk soon.